Okay. So hydrolysis of salts. What do you mean by hydrolysis? What do you mean by the word hydrolysis? So hydrolysis, Mitali has sent addition of water. So it's not exactly addition. It's to do with water, hydrolysis. So basically it's a sort of an interaction with water. So we are going to study about how like how water basically interacts with different kinds of salts. What are salts? How are salts formed? So salts are formed from the neutralization reaction of an acid and a base, right? This all of you are familiar with. Acid plus base gives salt plus water. Okay. So hydrolysis is basically when you add a salt in water. When a salt is dissolved in water, salt being an ionic compound dissociates into cation and anion. So the water, like you've got hydration, right? So if the ions, like if it gets completely dissociated, if like if it's, so depending on the enthalpies, like depending on how well the salt is dissolving, uh, water molecules can hydrate cations and anions. But if the salt is not very soluble in water, what happens is, um, like the tendency of water to interact with the individual cation or anion is basically it gets affected. Yeah, so that interaction is called hydrolysis. So like we'll take specific cases to describe it, like you'll get a better idea about it, right? All right. So depending, like you'll have different types of salts depending on what kind of acid and what kind of base are reacting with them. Okay. So first case, if we consider like if both acid and base are strong. So if you have a salt formed from strong acid and a strong base, what kind of salt will you get from this?
Highly soluble.
Soluble, yes. What can you say about the nature of the salt? Like, uh,
It will have very strong interactive forces. I mean, it wouldn't easily dissolve if
no, it
that's
will
the
dissolve
case.
easily in water. So the different types of salts, in case you guys have forgotten or are not familiar with, is you have neutral salts, you have acidic salts, and you have basic salts, right? So when you have a strong acid and a strong base reacting to give you a salt, what type of salt is produced?
Neutral.
Neutral, correct. Okay. So the reason why we say it's a neutral salt is in is because there is no hydrolysis taking place in this situation. Okay. So when you have a strong acid, like when you have a salt made up of a strong acid and a strong base, there is no hydrolysis that takes place, and the pH when you dissolve that salt in water is 7. It's a neutral salt. So as an example, NaCl, when you dissolve it in water, Na and Cl completely dissociated into ions. So you have Na plus and OH minus and H plus and Cl minus. Okay. And they all remain as ions itself. So that's why we say there is no hydrolysis that's happening over here. So by contrast, if you want to see a case where hydrolysis does take place, so let's look at a salt that is formed when a weak acid and a strong base react. Okay. So what kind of salt is produced here when you have a weak acid plus a strong base?
Basic salt.
Basic salt, right? So let's see why we call this salt as like, so what would you expect when you put pH paper in a solution of this salt?
Red pH paper would turn
More
blue.
than 7.
Correct. Red turns to blue. Basic, इसलिए basic salt बोल रहे हैं, which means that pH should be more than 7. So let's see why this happens. So salt is Ba, B plus is from the base, A minus is from the acid. This is going to dissociate into B plus and A minus. Salt hai, ionic hai, it's going to ionize. Now, what is the nature of a weak acid that we know of? Like, what makes an acid weak? Like, how do you differentiate between strong acids?
Partially dissociates in the presence of water.
Yeah, like dissociation is not that strong. It partially dissociates, which means that A minus, when you put it in water, it has a tendency of establishing this equilibrium. It has a tendency to form the weak acid back by combining with the H plus from water. It doesn't want to stay as ionized, like it's not going to, like the acid is not completely ionized. But B plus, because it's from a strong base, it wants to completely ionize. Okay? So A minus ends up establishing this equilibrium. Now, because there's water molecules interacting with the anion of the salt, we call this anionic hydrolysis. Okay, so this sort of interaction where water is breaking apart a compound to form its corresponding acid or base back is called hydrolysis. So basically, water molecules are interacting with either the cation or the anion of the salt in order to form the weak acid or a base back. Okay. So in the case of a weak acid, now because in water this equilibrium is being established, what can you say about the concentration of H plus and OH minus ions?
Concentration of H plus ions is very less in comparison to the OH minus, and therefore it's a basic.
Yes, correct. So that is what leads to the pH being less than 7, this presence of this OH minus ions. So what's happening is salt itself doesn't have any H plus or OH minus, but because of like the conjugate base of the weak acid is strong. So this has a tendency to pull the H plus from water to reform the weak acid, leading to like H plus ka concentration decreases, which means that OH minus ka concentration is slightly increasing. That's the reason pH becomes greater than 7. And that is why we say that salts formed from weak acid and a strong base are basic in nature. Okay. So this particular equilibrium, the constant associated with this equilibrium is called hydrolysis constant, because it's the equilibrium constant established for hydrolysis during hydrolysis. And iska value is equal to concentration of HA plus 9 into concentration of OH minus divided by concentration of A minus. Okay. So from this hydrolysis constant, you have a related quantity called the degree of hydrolysis. Why is this important? Is because if more of A minus is getting hydrolyzed, so that means higher degree of hydrolysis means there's more of OH minus being produced, which means that the solution is going to be more basic. Okay, so to help us with the calculation of how much OH minus is going to be there, yeah, so the KH is going to be related to the degree of hydrolysis, and that will kind of tell us, like, if you have a salt formed from a weak acid and a strong base, you can kind of predict what the basicity is going to be. Okay, so just like with our P, like Ka and Kb values, you can derive the expression on your own. If not, I'll give you the notes for this, but it follows the exact same process. So if you dissolve C concentration of the weak base, which means that C concentration of A minus will be formed in the solution, and if the degree of hydrolysis is H, then at equilibrium you're going to have CH of OH minus and CH of HA being formed in the solution. So using all of these relations, you can say KH will be equal to CH square by 1 minus H. Very similar to your degree of dissociation formula. Again, the context changes. Degree of dissociation relates to a weak acid dissociating into acids. Degree of hydrolysis relates to how much of the salt is being hydrolyzed in the solution. Okay. Now, because both of them are reverse of each other, degree of hydrolysis and ionization constant of weak acids are related to each other by the formula KH into Ka will basically be equal to Kw. So if you compare this with our expression Ka into Kb equal to Kw.
Yeah. So KH is equal to KB.
Yeah. So Kb of conjugate base, I'll use a different color for this. So Kb of conjugate base is indicative of what? So it indicates Kb of any base basically indicates strength of the base, right? K is the measure of strength of acid, Kb is measure of strength of base. So strength of a base का मतलब how, or let me say, it is basically the tendency to pull a proton towards itself, to attract proton. Let's call it attract and not pull. What is happening in this equation? So A minus is attracting the proton towards itself, forming HA, right? So degree of hydrolysis constant is basically the measure of how well this particular species can attract a proton from water, get hydrolyzed by water. So Kb of a conjugate base of a weak acid is same as Kh, which is hydrolysis constant of a basic salt, because they both measure how well that A minus anion can pull a proton towards itself. Only the context of where this A minus is coming from is differing. Like in the case of a hydrolysis constant, you like A minus is coming from a basic salt. It's coming from a salt that consists A minus as the anion. But if you're talking about Kb of the conjugate base of the weak acid, it is coming from dissociation of the acid itself. Okay. They are, yeah, like numerically they are equal to each other because they represent the same thing. Like how well A minus can attract a proton towards itself. So if that A minus is coming from a basic salt, it's basically hydrolysis constant because a salt is getting hydrolyzed here. And if you're talking about the ionization constant of the conjugate base, then basically the focus is on the acid here. That's why A minus is its conjugate base. Are you getting it? Okay, you guys being quiet is a little like it's scaring me a little.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, I got it, but it's like just too much to take in. I mean,
So you can ignore this
a lot of-
basically, but remember this part, like basic salt ka hydrolysis में, because it is formed from weak acid, it has a tendency to form HA and establish this particular equilibrium. And because of this equilibrium, you have like the concentration of OH minus is increasing, which makes the pH greater than 7. Like remember that much. That is sufficient. Okay, this is just like further analysis on the existing thing.
Okay, ma'am.
Similarly, if you consider, actually before we go forward, there is one more bit related to hydrolysis. It's the same thing for weak, strong acid, weak base also. But yeah, so you will have problems asking you to calculate the pH of a basic salt. So in your textbook, you're just given a particular equation. It feels random, but I'll tell you how to relate all of it. Okay. So this is the equilibrium that's established. So the salt Ba has dissociated into B plus and A minus. This is happy remaining as an ion, but A minus is going to be hydrolyzed to establish this equilibrium. Ha plus OH minus. Okay. Now, concentration of OH. So basically what is happening here is ionization constant K is equal to so the reason why I got in degree of hydrolysis is because it's kind of required in the derivation of this equation. Okay. So if the degree of hydrolysis is H. It means that if you start off with C concentration of BA, then CH of HA has formed. So going by stoichiometry, CH of OH minus is formed. So at equilibrium, C into 1 minus H of A minus is left over. So equilibrium constant KH is equal to CH square by 1 minus H. This equation we have gotten. Okay. Now concentration of OH minus, from stoichiometry we can see that it is equal to CH. So total we started off with C concentration of the salt, but only H amount of it has dissociated, like H fraction of it. That is why concentration of OH minus we got as CH, which is equal to, based on the equation with equilibrium, like the hydrolysis constant and all of that, we get the value of H as C into root over Kw by Ka into C. How we get this is basically just rearranging this equation. So if the degree of hydrolysis is so small that it is negligible, you get Kh equal to Ch square. So H is equal to Kh upon C, or substituting this value, you get H equal to root over Kw upon Ka into C. So from mathematics, from this expression itself, you get this value for H. So this is the concentration of OH minus. So if you take negative log on both sides is equal to minus log of C into root Kw upon Ka into C. So that will give you the value of POH equal to negative log of C into root Kw upon Ka into C. So basically, just simplifying this, you get the value for pH as 14 minus POH, that is equal to 14 minus of this value, minus log C into root of Kw by Ka into C. So just simplifying this, you will get formula for pH as 7 plus half of pKa plus log C. So from this to this, you guys can do it in your own time. It is just applying the rules of logarithm. Expand this as log C plus half of log Kw minus log Ka minus log C. So just simplifying all of that, you basically get this expression. So for a basic salt, if you are given the concentration and if you know what is the pK of the weak acid that it is made up of, you can find out what is the pH of the solution. This is the equation. Okay. So if you come across any questions that ask you like examples of a basic salt, sodium bicarbonate का pH क्या है? Like if 0.25 moles of sodium bicarbonate was dissolved in like 200 ml of water, then calculate the pH of the solution. Then you just get the concentration, what is the pK of carbonic acid, and apply this and you'll get this. ठीक है?
Yes, ma'am.
Similarly, we can derive it for an acidic salt also. So if you have a salt formed from a strong acid and a weak base, you basically get an acidic salt, and jiska pH will be less than 7, obviously. Okay, so now you guys tell me, what are the relations, what are the equations or equilibrium that gets set up in the solution? So Ba is the salt, it gets ionized into B plus and A minus. Now which one of B plus and A minus get like they remain ionized? Which one is ionized, which one is hydrolyzed? Can you repeat that, Mitali? The voice was breaking. Anyone else? Taranum? Mayas?
Ma'am, is B plus hydrolyzed?
Correct. Okay, so weak base hai idhar, which means that the conjugate acid, like if BOH is the weak base, conjugate acid B at B plus is the one that's going to get combined. So A minus will remain ionized because you're getting it from a strong acid. H plus plus A minus से acid आ रहा है, मतलब A minus will remain as an ion, strong acid. That's okay with that. Yeah. So B plus is the one that interacts with water, gets hydrolyzed to BOH plus H plus. So now that you have H plus ions in the solution, so the B plus is like pulling out all the OH. In turn, it's increasing the number of H plus in the solution, which causes the solution to be acidic. ये extra H plus आ रहा है, इसलिए acidic and pH is greater than 7. So just like with the previous thing, if you assume the degree of hydrolysis, get all the relations and everything, you can calculate the pH of this solution as 7 minus half of log C plus pKb. In this case, we consider Kb because we are dealing with a weak base. So iska bhi derivation hai. If you guys are interested, I will write it down nicely in a piece of paper and I'll send it to you. Otherwise, you can intuitively figure it out also. So if it's a basic salt, pH should be greater than 7, तो इसलिए 7 plus आ गया. 7 plus something. And that something is basically pKa plus log C. Weak acid है तो P of that weak acid plus log C. अभी acidic salt है, pH should be less than 7, तो 7 minus आ गया. And what you're subtracting is pKb plus log C. So because we're dealing with a weak base, यहाँ पे pKb है, you're dealing with a weak acid, you have a pKa over here. Okay. So logically, these are the factors that it depends on, and it shouldn't seem very confusing anymore. Okay. So acidic salts and basic salts, this is how you figure out the pH of that salt solution. Okay. Now let's look at the final category for salt hydrolysis. If it is a salt formed between weak acid plus weak base. Okay. Then what happens? So again, salt is Ba, cation B plus, and anion A minus. So B plus comes from the weak base and A minus comes from the weak acid. Now, because both of them are weak, like weak acid, weak base, both of them set up their own hydrolysis. So B plus and A minus, both of them undergo their own equilibrium. So B plus is going to attract the OH minus and A minus is going to attract the H plus. They form their respective weak acid and bases. Okay. So again, if you assume the degree of hydrolysis and write the relation with the hydrolysis constant and all of that, when you derive pH is going to be equal to 7 plus half of pKa minus pKb. Okay. So whether this is going to be an acidic salt or a basic salt completely depends on the Ka and Kb values, or pKa and pKb values of the weak acid and the weak base. So if pKa is greater than pKb, this overall thing is going to be positive and it's going to be a basic salt. So greater pKa is weaker acid, isliye. And if pKb is greater than pKa, this overall thing is going to be negative. So it's going to be 7 minus something. So you're going to end up with an acidic salt. Okay. So this is all about salt hydrolysis. This is what happens when you put any kind of salt in water. What kind of equilibria are established. And because of this equilibria, is going to decide how much of H plus is going to remain in the solution or how much of OH minus is going to remain in the solution. So based on that, the pH value is going to get affected of that particular solution. Okay. Are you guys clear about this?
Ma'am, could you just go back to your previous whiteboard?
Yeah, previous page.
Yeah, just a second.
So go through it. I will do like a one problem to figure out how to use these formula, like what context will you be using them in. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, done.
Okay. Example question for this. Okay, so like we have a lot of application questions for buffer solutions. Okay, got it. This is a good one. So if you have your workbooks with you, you can look at 7.2.12. Or let me project the question here. So the ionization constant of nitrous acid is given to be this much. So calculate the pH of 0.04 molar sodium nitrate solution and also its degree of hydrolysis. So this needs to be nitrite solution, okay? a little bit of correction here. Okay. So how will you solve this question? What do you understand from this question?
It could be nitrous acid, so that's HN nitrous acid, I'm not sure. H2NO3 or something like that.
HNO2. HNO3 is nitric, HNO2 is nitrous. Okay. So what are you given here of nitrous acid? Right? Plus NaOH. Sodium nitrite is HNO2 plus NaOH. Correct. So this is a strong base. And since you're given ionization constant, it's like a weaker acid. So what is this number, 4.5? Yeah, this is going to give you NaNO2 plus H2. Right. Correct. So you're given this particular value is Ka value. So Ka of your weak acid is given. What else are you given? Concentration. So you're given C. So you have to calculate the pH of this particular salt. Okay. So cases like these, you can directly apply the formula pH equal to. So it's going to be 7 plus or 7 minus.
Plus because it's a base. So.
Right. 7 plus half of, figure out what is the pKa plus log of the concentration. Okay. So pKa you can find out since you're given Ka, it is minus log of whatever this is. And concentration you're already given here. So yeah. So based on this, you can figure out what is the pH of it. Okay, so this is how you, like, these are the kind of questions where you'll be given that. So 13 is also pretty similar to it. You're given ionization constant of a weak acid. What is the pH of? Oh, this is slightly different. We will deal with it when we talk about the solutions, like when we talk about buffer solutions and all that. Yeah. But yeah, so if it's just an aqueous solution, this is the formula that you use. Okay. Okay. Now coming to buffer solutions. What do you mean by buffer solutions? Okay, so Mitali says it's solutions that resist pH change. Why do you need buffer solutions? Like, why do they exist at all in nature? Right? They have biological significance. Right. So basically, a lot of natural process, like at the beginning of this chapter, or at least at the beginning of when we're discussing ionic equilibria, when talking about acids and bases and all, we figured like how important pH is. You know, digestion needs to happen at like a certain pH. Soil needs to be of a certain pH value for some plants to grow. Like a lot of natural processes need a certain pH for them to take place in. Like they need that concentration of either H plus or OH minus to be there. It depends from process to process, right? Even for reactions for that matter. So if we take a solution of pure acid or a pure base of a certain pH, when the reaction is happening, if you have extra H plus or extra OH minus being produced, you're screwed. Like the pH is going to change because the concentration of H plus has changed, right? But if you if you have those processes taking place in buffer solutions, so if you design the solutions such that they resist the change of pH, so even if you have environmental factors or within the reaction, if you have like extra H plus or OH minus being produced, because the pH hasn't changed significantly, the process can continue to take place. Okay. That is the reason buffer solutions are extremely, extremely, extremely important. Like I think there's some buffer solutions existing naturally also, like blood. I think there's an example of a buffer solution. It is always maintained at a particular pH value. Tiny changes. Okay. So the section we're going to talk about what are the different types of buffer solutions, like how the buffer solutions are made and also how they work. Okay. So natural buffer is basically an example of a natural buffer is salt of a weak acid plus weak base. So these kind of buffer solutions are called natural buffers. They are formed from the salt of a weak acid and a weak base. An example of such a buffer is ammonium acetate. So the weak acid is acetic acid and the weak base is ammonium hydroxide. Okay, so this is one example. Another example of a buffer solution that is typically used is an acidic buffer, when the base of the solution is like it's the natural pH of this particular solution is always less than 7. So it is naturally acidic in nature. It resists the change of pH. So whatever value it is, it remains close to that particular value. You can manipulate what that value is depending on the solution of the components. But yeah, so the pH is always less than 7. So it is formed by mixing a weak acid with a salt made of its conjugate base. Okay. So for example, if we take the weak acid to be acetic acid only, then salt of its conjugate base. So mix it with some amount of sodium acetate, for example. Okay. So whatever salt you take, it needs to have the conjugate base in it for it to form an acidic buffer. So another example, a couple more examples, in case you're asked, you can note it down, is boric acid plus borax. Borax is also a sodium salt of the boric acid. So yeah, that's how it works. Then you have phthalic acid PHTHALIC, phthalic acid with potassium acid phthalate. So it's a potassium salt. So phthalic acid is an organic acid. It is, yeah, that's why it's one of the weaker acids. So it's got an aromatic structure. Now, oxalic is the one that's this thing, yeah. So it's basically phthalic acid is this. So you have a benzene ring and you have COH and COH. This is phthalic acid. Yeah, and potassium salt is basically replace the H with potassium. So you get the potassium salt. So these are some examples of the acidic buffers. Okay. So if you have to figure out, okay, you prepared a particular solution of an acidic buffer. You prepared acidic buffer solution and you want to know what is the pH that that buffer solution is going to maintain at, or maybe you want to prepare a solution with a particular pH. So pH of any buffer solution is equal to its pKa value, which numerically it is log of the concentration of the salt that you take divided by the concentration of the acid that you take. Okay. So it's logarithm of this entire value. So you can manipulate how much salt, how much acid you take to get an acidic buffer of the required pH value. Okay, so this is how they're made. Now, how do these buffer solutions work? All right, so let's consider acidic buffer itself. So let's say the weak acid that you take is HA and the salt that you take with the conjugate base is Ba. So both of them have the same conjugate base, which is A minus. All right. Now, when you mix both of them together, you're going to have these three equilibria that's established. The weak acid is going to have its own equilibrium. HA is going to dissociate into H plus and A minus. Now, because it's a weak acid, this is going to be feeble. It's not going to be completely ionized. You're going to have amount of HA also. You're going to have some amount of ions also. The salt, because it's a salt, Ba is going to get completely ionized into B plus and A minus. So this happens completely. And because you're doing it in water, you're going to have water ka its own hydrolysis, H plus and OH minus. This is going to be even less. Okay. So these are the equilibria that you find in the solution. So how does this buffer work? So buffer ke liye, no matter what you add, the pH should remain the same, which means that whatever H plus and OH minus are there, these should remain unchanged. Okay. The concentration of these things should remain unchanged. So even if you have extra H plus, it should be taken up by one of these equilibrium so that the, what do you call it, the constants are restored, constant values are restored. Okay. So let's see, if let's say an acid is added, if HCl is added, what does HCl dissociate into?
H plus Cl minus.
Correct. H plus and Cl minus. So if you have extra H plus, how is it going to affect the solution where you have already these processes happening? I have extra H plus. Then what happens?
The pH should reduce, right?
No, but you already have these processes in the solution, right? So are you saying none of these will be affected? Like what happens?
Like the H plus increases.
If H plus increases, think of Le Chatelier's principle.
Ma'am, so given all of these are in equilibrium, over that the H plus is increasing, right?
Yeah,
All of them will occur in a back, like at least the first and the third one will occur in a backward direction. The
correct.
third one will remain unaffected because
Exactly.
there is
So,
no H plus.
so there's two ways this will go. Okay. So one is that extra H plus is added now because the concentration of H plus is increasing. The equilibrium for this reaction is going to shift towards the back. Another thing that happens is now the salt of the weak acid is completely ionized. Now because you are taking a weak acid, A minus has a tendency to combine with H plus to form Ha. So whatever A minus ions are there in the solution, they are going to take up these H plus ions that are produced and form your Ha. So the A minus ions that are there are basically controlling the quantity of H plus ions by shifting this their own equilibrium. So extra A minus that are there are going to take up these H plus ions. So that's how the acidic buffer resists the change of pH solution. So even if you add H plus solution, because of the equilibria that are there, they consume that H plus ion. So overall net quantity of H plus that are there in the solution remains unaffected. Okay? Make sense?
Ma'am, could you repeat that last part again?
Yeah. So what I said is, so if there's extra H plus in the solution due to the addition of an acid, the A minus, the conjugate base ions are there. Like if I took acetic acid, the acetate ions, CH3COO minus ions are there. They basically establish the equilibrium with the extra H plus. So the net concentration of H plus is basically unaffected. Equilibrium is established again.
Okay, and it's only because of these A minus ions that are present in the solution.
Correct. It's because of this equilibrium that's established. Okay. Now, on the flip side, let's say if NaOH is added. Okay. Right now we added an acid. Now if we add a base, NaOH is going to dissociate into Na plus and OH minus. Then what
Then
will
it will be the
happen?
same case, right, ma'am? We have hydrogen ions present. They will combine with OH minus to form water. So
Correct.
again, the entire equilibrium is unaffected. I
Exactly.
mean, equilibrium is established. Sorry.
Yeah, equilibrium is established, so the pH is unaffected. So what happens is CH3COOH plus OH minus. So basically, indirectly, the H plus from the acid combines to form H2O plus CH3COO minus. Okay. So that way, even if there's extra OH minus, the effect is not felt. Extra OH minus affects this equilibrium. So the extra H plus is additionally, it's going to like get into the HA ka equilibrium that way. Yeah. So that's how acidic buffers work. So even if you add and like that's how they resist the change in pH. So even if there's extra H plus and OH minus, it's these equilibriums that get manipulated, and the overall net quantity of H plus and OH minus is unchanged. Like the effect is not felt of the extra H plus or OH minus. Yeah. So that's how acidic buffers work. Like basically that's how basic buffers also work, just that their roles get reversed. So if it's a basic buffer, then the acid that is uh, like it's a weak base plus a basic salt, right? So that is going to take care of all the OH minus ions that are there that are established in the equilibrium, and like that's kind of how the buffers work.
Ma'am, sorry, could you just go back to the previous slide there?
Yeah, sure. Are you noting it?
Yes, ma'am. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. So in the case of a basic buffer, it's the exact same thing, just reversed. It is formed when you mix a weak base and a salt of its conjugate acid. So for example, weak base that we have is ammonium hydroxide. Conjugate acid is any salt of ammonium, ammonium cation with anion, ammonium chloride, for example. That way. Another example that we have is glycine. Plus, glycine is another organic compound. Structure is so glycine and its conjugate, like salt of conjugate acid, is glycine hydrochloride. So structure of glycine is basically you have COOH and NH2. Because of the presence of the acidic group, oh no, there's a carbon in between. Not glycine. CH2, NH2. So these groups of compounds, amines, are all basic in nature, but because of the presence of COH, this makes it a weak base. So glycine hydrochloride is, it's like when you have a chlorine attached over here. Let's see here. So this is an example of a basic buffer. Similarly, the pOH of a basic buffer is equal to pKb of it, which is equal to the logarithm of concentration of salt upon the concentration of the base that you use. So if you have to find out the pH, then you can get it from the pOH from this relation. 14 minus pOH. Okay. So buffer solutions, there's another factor that you can measure called buffer capacity. It is represented by phi. Greek, this is a Greek alphabet, phi or phi. Okay. So this is equal to, it's basically the number of moles of acid or a base per liter. So that's added to 1 liter of the buffer solution upon the change in pH. So it basically measures the tendency of the buffer solution to resist the change. It's basically a direct measure of how many moles of an acid or a base do you have to add to cause 1 unit change in pH. So addition of a tiny amount causes 1 change in pH, then the buffer capacity is very less. It doesn't exactly resist change in pH all that easily. If you need to add a lot of moles, like basically if you need to add a really high concentration of acid or a base to change the pH, then it's got an extremely high buffer capacity. Okay. This is more of, again, it's like, I don't see any explicit problems that you're asked about buffer capacity, but in case you're asked what is buffer capacity, or in case you come across problems, this is what it means, this is what it stands for. Okay. So these are all the terms and expressions related to weak acids and weak base, what their ionic equilibrium that is established can do. So one, it helps us figure out if there's salts of weak acid or weak base, helps us figure out what is the pH of that salt. So if you don't want to deal with acids and bases directly, then you can use the salts like the base acidic salts and basic salts to manipulate your pH. Second, it helps us create buffer solutions which help us like resist the pH of any solution. Okay. So you can figure out what is the pH of buffer solutions also based on how much of the salt or the acid or base that you have taken. So if it's an acidic buffer, you get your pH directly, logarithm of salt upon, like concentration of salt upon acid. And if it's a basic buffer, you get the value of pOH. So calculating pH is, you need to go one step extra. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, got it.
Okay, cool. How are you guys doing so far? I know it's a lot of information, but have you been able to at least compartmentalize it, like put it in context?
Like, yeah, 70-80%.
Good, good. Okay. So when you read a question, like, again, it's not necessary for you guys to reproduce all of this information as it is, right? So that's a good thing. So when you read a question, if you're able to identify what you're supposed to do with it, that's where you need to be at. Okay. That, okay. So now let's look at solubility of salts, the equilibrium that is set up when you dissolve salts in water. Okay. So what are the different thermodynamic quantities that come into picture when you dissolve salts in water?
Ma'am, what are what?
Hydration enthalpy.
Right. So Mitali, I was asking about what are the thermodynamic quantities? Yeah. So when you come across the word thermodynamic, immediately you should associate it with all the energy changes, energy exchanges.
Yeah, Tananam said hydration and lattice enthalpy.
Correct. Okay. So you have so lattice enthalpy and hydration enthalpy together, you have something called solvation enthalpy. You remember this, you guys? Enthalpy of solvation, like the energy that is released on dissolving a salt. And of course, apart from this, you actually need to break the lattice in order to dissolve a salt. So of course you have lattice enthalpy that comes into picture. Okay. So for any salt to be soluble in water, or any solvent basically, if it's water, then it's a solvation enthalpy with respect to water. If it's ammonia, then it's a different solvation enthalpy. So basically for any salt to be soluble in a solvent, the solvation enthalpy should be greater than the lattice enthalpy. Okay, like the energy needed to dissolve it, if it is enough to overcome the like if it's able to break the lattice structure, if it's able to overcome the lattice enthalpy, then we can say that yes, the salt will be soluble. Okay, this is like a basic rule. So obviously, lattice enthalpy is going to be different for different salts. It depends on what those salts are made up of, right? It also, like, with respect to solvation enthalpy itself, you're going to get hydration enthalpy in the picture. Okay. So based on these values, you have salts that are completely soluble, like your NaCl table salt and all. Then you have salts that are slightly soluble. Like, these are all subjective words, but yeah, they come in a spectrum between completely soluble to being insoluble. Okay. So then they can be sparingly soluble, like slightly soluble. It's basically a spectrum of solubilities. Okay. Now the solubility also depends on their temperature. So some salt may be insoluble at room temperature, but if you put it in boiling water, it may become soluble. And then when you cool it down again, it's going to precipitate out. Okay. So yeah, so solubility depends on all these energy factors, which is dependent on their size of the ion, polarity of the ions, and also the temperature. Okay. So we're in this section, we are going to establish a relation, like we are going to figure out based on all these factors a particular value called KSP. KPS nahi, my bad. This is KSP, which is solubility product of a salt, which will help us in figuring out whether a salt is going to be soluble or not. Now, this is important because using this only, you'll be able to, like, you can manipulate that. Like, if you want to precipitate a certain salt, like if you're purifying table salt from seawater, let's say, you want to precipitate that salt out, right? And you want it to be clean. Like, if you just evaporate it along with NaCl, you're going to get your MgCl2 and your potassium sulfate and everything that is there in the ocean. But no, you want like pure table salt alone. You want to precipitate it out of the solution. You need to figure out what is the concentration you need to use, how much do you need to dilute it, what temperatures to use. So using this constant called KSP, it'll help you figure out how to deal with salts. Okay. So KSP, again, because you have this value K, it's an equilibrium constant. Okay. So consider this situation. Okay. So let's say you have a salt AB. For a salt AB, Am I audible, you guys? There seems to be a lag here. That's why I'm asking.
No, ma'am, you're audible.
Audible. And okay, you're able to see the board also, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, what is the full form of KSP? Constant of soluble.
Solubility
What does
product.
the P stand for?
Product.
Solubility product. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, for a salt AB, when you dissolve it in water, when you put AB in water, you want to prepare a saturated solution of AB. Then what are the different equilibria that are established?
Ma'am, could you repeat that?
So when you're preparing a saturated solution of AB in water, what all equilibrium can you observe?
The salt dissociation
Yeah. So before
into its ions.
correct. So before that, you're right, but before that, you have AB solid being in equilibrium with AB dissolved. Remember, we're preparing a saturated solution. AB solid, so you get AB dissolved. And whatever is dissolved is going to dissociate into ions. A plus and B minus. Okay. So the equilibrium constant associated with this, let's call it K, will be equal to concentration of A plus into concentration of B minus divided by the concentration of AB. Now, considering the fact that I'm preparing a saturated solution of AB, what can you say about the concentration of AB? Will it remain constant or is it going to change for a particular temperature?
And why are you considering AB? It's a solid, right? Won't it become like a pure solid that you will not consider?
Yeah, solid is going to get converted into dissolved aqueous state, right? So that's the
Oh, okay. That's why you're considering.
yeah. So what can you say about the concentration of AB that is dissolved?
It should be maximum.
Yeah, so that maximum value, like all of this equilibria constant and all, we are considering for a saturated solution only. So will that maximum value keep changing or do you think it will be a constant for any particular salt? Like if I take 100 ml of water and I want to create a saturated solution of NaCl in it. So will I require different quantities of NaCl to be dissolved in that 100 ml, or will it be constant whenever I want to prepare a saturated solution?
Ma'am, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so I was asking if I want to prepare concentrated, not concentrated, let's say saturated salt solution. Okay, so will the quantity of salt that I need to add to water keep changing all the time, or if I keep the quantity of water the same, will it remain the same?
Shouldn't it like decrease? Because your dilution, you're increasing.
No, I'm not diluting. I'm not changing the quantity of water. For a given quantity of water, to prepare a saturated solution, will I require the same amount of salt every time or different amounts?
To prepare a saturated solution,
Yeah,
shouldn't you require the same amount of salt?
exactly.
Because it also depends on what salt you'll be considering, right? Like the saturity should be.
Yeah, like if I'm taking the same salt, the value will be the same, right? I'm not changing any of the conditions. So basically, that's what solubility is, right? The maximum amount of salt that can be dissolved at a particular temperature in a given amount of solvent. So if I'm taking only for saturated solution, this value is going to be constant. Concentration of AB will be constant because the maximum value required to prepare a saturated solution is going to be the same. So I'll say let the concentration of AB, since it is a constant, I'll consider it as K dash. Then if I rearrange it, K is a constant, it's an equilibrium constant. K dash also is not going to change with temperature, is basically equal to concentration of A plus into concentration of B minus. So this particular value is equal to KSP, which is the solubility product of a salt. Okay. So KSP for any given salt for at a temperature is going to be constant. So if you change the temperature, KSP will change. So it varies with temperature. And of course, KSP of NaCl is not going to be the same as KSP of calcium chloride. Or it won't be it, and like KSP of potassium sulfate is going to be yet another different value. But yeah, for a particular salt at a given temperature, KSP is constant. Okay. So I'm going to refine this formula some more. Now, till now we have taken salts as AB, but salts are not always in the form AB, right? So if I take the salt to be AXBY, like in NaCl, it's like AB, but if I consider for CaCl2, it's going to dissociate into one calcium ion, but two chloride ions, right? So if I fine tune it further, this is going to dissociate as Xa plus and Yb minus ions. Now, if the solubility is S, solubility is basically the concentration that is required to prepare a saturated solution. Basically, the maximum amount of salt that can be dissolved at a particular temperature. So I take S amount of AXPY, then I get X into S amount of A plus ions. Like 1 mole is giving me X ions. S moles is giving me X into S ions. And similarly, I'm going to get Y into S amount of B minus ions. 1 mole is giving me Y ions. So S amount is giving me Y into S amount of ions. So basically, solubility product is going to be excess concentration raised to the power X, because stoichiometric coefficients, into Ys raised to the power Y, stoichiometric coefficients. So that's basically equal to X power X into Y power Y into S raised to the power X plus Y. So using this, if you know the solubility product, you can figure out what is the solubility of a particular salt. Or if you know what is the solubility of a salt, if you like experimentally determine the solubility, you can figure out what is the solubility product. Okay. Have you guys noted this down?
So, ma'am, this is the quantitative value of that I will get when when I check if a salt is soluble in water.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. So depending on the solubility product, you can determine how much of a salt you need for it to be able to dissolve in water. Like you will get the value of the solubility. So, to figure out whether something is going to be soluble or not, again, just like with like reaction coefficients, you have something called the ion product. Okay. So there's something called QSP, which is literally the product of concentration of the cations into the concentration of the anions. Now, because it is literally the product of concentration of ions, this is called ion product. So at saturation, QSP will be equal to KSP. You can think of it that way. So if ion product is greater than KSP, then salt is going to precipitate out. So you have more amount of ions than required for saturation. So you can predict that there's going to be precipitation. If ion product is less than KSP, there's lesser number of ions than required for precipitation. So you can say that nothing is going to precipitate, no precipitation. And if ion product is equal to KSP, then it is an equilibrium. Okay. So adding some more of the same ions is going to precipitate out. And if you take away any of these ions through a reaction or whatever, then there's not going to be any precipitation. It is like exactly balanced. Slight disturbance will cause precipitation that way. So this ion product is going to help you tell you whether a particular salt is going to precipitate out or not. So we'll do a couple of questions based on
Just a
solubility.
second, ma'am.
Oh, you're noting that down. Let me change it back.
Yeah. No, ma'am, I got that, the current whiteboard.
Huh.
Yes, ma'am, done.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so one direct question is 7.2.14 in case you guys have your workbooks with you. You're given solubility product constants of two salts, silver chromate and this one. Sure. Silver chromate and silver bromide. Calculate the ratio of molarities of their saturated solutions. So how will you so this is a direct application. Molarity of their saturated solution is basically you need to calculate what is the ratio between their solubilities. So you're given two salts, write down KSP for silver chromate, KSP for AgBr, and then you just need to take the ratio of both of them.
Ma'am, but just a second. KSP is the solubility product, right?
Yeah.
So how exactly would we find like saturated solutions with it?
So
I'm a bit
KSP
confused.
is related to the solubility, right?
Hmm.
What is solubility?
Concentration to prepare a saturated solution.
Exactly. Which is basically concentration matlab molarity of the saturated solution.
Okay.
Okay.
So we divide KSP1 by KSP2 and then
Yeah.
simply get the ratio.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, just see, like, depending on whatever expressions you get, you might need to manipulate it a little bit. KSP1 divided by root KSP or something like that. But yeah, you write down what is KSP1 equal to in terms of S1, KSP2 in terms of S2. You need to find out S1 upon S2. So your calculation will be in terms of KSP1 and KSP2. Because it also depends on the ions that you have, right? So it's not equivalent. But yeah, that's how you would approach it. Yeah. It's going to be related to KSP1 KSP2 ratio. This is another one I wanted to do with you guys. 7.2.13. Read the question. Tell me if you guys will be able to do it. If you are stumped, if you're like not sure how to proceed, I'll do this question in class and then I'll give you guys practice questions. So the ionization constant of chloroacetic acid is given to be this much. What will be the pH of 1 molar acid and its 0.1 m sodium salt solution?
So Ka is given.
Yes.
Uh, just a second. So this would form like an acidic buffer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We can find the pH using the formula pKa, which further simplified to log of salt, that is salt concentration upon acid concentration.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
is that correct?
Yeah, that is one way to do it. Correct. One moment. This is facing lag here. Correct. Next, for 15, you would need KSP value. So in your textbook, there is a table of KSP values given of different salts. So you can refer to that and figure out what is the answer for 15th. So do you know how to do this question? What is the
So ma'am, you
minimum
said
one? Yep.
ma'am, you said there are two ways to solve 7.2.13. So what I said, would I still get the correct answer?
pH of 1m acid and it's 1m sodium salt solution. So again, acid and sodium salt solution is both are going to get cancelled out, right? One moment. Just gonna restart this thing. So slightly different now, because what is given in the question is a weak acid and a weak base. You can't directly take the concentrations because they're not going to be completely ionized, right? So if you take 0.1 m of the acid, that's not going to be completely ionized. So the concentration of the acid that you take, like concentration of the salt that you take, will be 0.1 m. Concentration of the acid that you take is going to be, like, you will need to calculate it, like you need to figure out what is the degree of dissociation and get the hydrogen ion concentration based on that.
Oh, okay, ma'am. Got it. So it
Yeah.
won't be that straightforward, but like either one of the values will be given for
Yes.
the equation.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how you do it. Next, number 15. What is the minimum value of water required to dissolve 1 gram of calcium sulfate?
Ma'am, just a second. I think everybody left, or there's some glitch in my laptop.
Now it looks like everybody has disconnected.
Oh. So, ma'am, you could do this. You could give us